Hi, my name's Michelle Malik, and I'm the Director of Venues and Operations for the Durango Independent Film Festival. This is our venue volunteer training, and so I'm going to spend the next few minutes explaining to you how the venues work, how we get people into and out of the theater, and what kinds of things you'll be doing as a venue volunteer for the festival. First, I'd like to thank you so much for volunteering. If you're a veteran volunteer watching this for a refresher, you know how important you are to the festival. If you're new, welcome aboard. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great experience. I'd like to start out by telling you about our box office. So when you sign up for your volunteer shifts online, you will be getting passes for the films, and how many passes you get depends on how many hours that you work. Now, our box office, which is at Four Leaves Winery in the 500 block of Main Ave, right across the street from the train station, will be open starting on Monday before the film festival, and it will be open basically business hours from Monday through Saturday during the film festival. What we want you to do is go by on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, anytime before your first shift that you're volunteering for, sign a waiver if you haven't done that already, and get your pass or passes depending on how many movies that you're going to get to see. And we need you to sign that waiver before you actually work a shift. If you're a veteran volunteer and you have a volunteer t-shirt, we ask you to wear that if you can, as much as you can, for your shifts. Now, next up, I'm going to explain how the venues work. We have the Gaslight Theater and the Durango Arts Center, and I'm going to explain how those work and what you'll be doing as a volunteer in the theater, or maybe outside the theater, but by way of getting people into and out of the movies. I'm going to talk about the Durango Arts Center first because it's slightly less complicated than the Gaslight because it only has one screen instead of two. So the Durango Arts Center, the main entrance is on 8th Avenue. 8th? Yes, is on 8th Street, is on 8th Street facing south. So when you're facing that door, the main entrance, there will be barricades with signs directing people where to line up, going towards 2nd, which is west, going towards 2nd Ave, which is west, and going towards 3rd Ave, which is east. We have one line going towards 2nd Avenue, and that line, as the sign on the barricades will tell you, is for ticket buyers. The two lines going east towards 3rd Ave is for first tier and second tier. And so we have three different lines. We have a first tier line for first tier pass holders, a second tier line for second tier pass holders, and a ticket buyer line for people who are buying individual tickets. Now, people with first tier passes are people who have bought an all festival pass or an all film pass. They may also be sponsors, filmmakers, jurors. There's a number of people who get first tier passes, and those people get in before everybody else. So up until 20 minutes before the program begins, the only people allowed in are going to be first tier pass holders. From the time that our projectionist tells us that we're free to start letting people in until 20 minutes before the program starts, first-tier pass holders get in. As they come in, we scan their passes with scanners that are basically a very elaborate cell phone, and we hand them a seat voucher. We use seat vouchers for a couple of different things. A seat voucher is essentially a ticket, and on the one side it will say what movie they're going in to see, what time, what theater, and on the back it will be a ballot, because most of our films are in competition, and we have audience awards. If there is no ballot on the back of the seat voucher, it means that film is not in competition, and it will say that. Every single person, first tier, second tier ticket buyer that goes in and takes a seat in the movie has to have a seat voucher, because one of the things we do is use those to count. We only have as many seat vouchers in the packet as there are seats in the theater, so that you, as volunteers, letting people, film goers into the theater, can keep track of how many people are going in and how many seats you have left. That way, if you get close to selling out, you know what's coming. So every single person who comes in gets a seat voucher. So you're letting first-tier people in, you're scanning their passes. Each person has his or her or their individual pass with a QR code. You'll scan it, you'll hand them a seat voucher, and they will go into the theater. Once they're in, they can get concessions, they can use the restroom. But if they decide to go all the way out of the theater again and come back, they have to have that seat voucher, so you let them back in. At 20 minutes before the program starts, or when you get, if all the first year people are in at 20 minutes, if you still got first year people waiting at 20 minutes till, you let those in. If you've let all the first year people currently in line in and it's 20 minutes before the program, you start letting second tier pass holders in. Second tier pass holders have what we call PAL Pack passes, usually, and instead of vertical passes on a lanyard, they're going to be horizontal passes on a lanyard. The PAL Pack passes, which used to be called punch passes, to give you an idea of how they work, those passes are shareable, they're transferable. So if you have a 6-punch PAL Pack pass, you could bring 5 people with you and everybody could get into one movie. Or if you're using it by yourself, you can get into 6 movies. You get the idea. So you can bring other people with you. So at 20 till, when you start letting the second tier folks in, you scan their passes as well. But the first thing you need to ask them is, how many people are coming in to see this program on this pass today? Because if there's more than one, you have to scan it as many times as there are people coming in to see the film. Once those people are in, once all the second tier people have gotten in, and it's 15 minutes before the program is about to start, you can start letting the ticket buyers in. Again, individual tickets to movies are only available 15 minutes before the program begins at that theater. Passes, whether they're first or second tier passes, can be bought online and they can be bought at the box office. Individual tickets can only be bought 15 minutes before the screening begins at the theater. Individual tickets are $15 each. Now, we also can use the scanner. For this, we can use the scanner to take their credit card. We will also have a cash box. These people also, again, get let in, given a seat voucher, just like the first and second tier people. Once they've given you their credit card or their cash, you give them a seat voucher and they go on in. If first tier people show up after you've started letting second tier people in, they can skip the line and come to the front of the line ahead of the rest of the second tier people. The same thing applies with ticket buyers. Once you started letting the ticket buyers in, if any first or second tier people show up, they can skip the line and go in ahead of the ticket buyers. So that's how that works. Everybody gets in the theater, we hope. Everybody enjoys the movie. While the movie is going on, there are sometimes some things to do that you as a volunteer can work on. For example, we like to help the theaters keep the lobbies clean. And so, little sweeping, little picking up popcorn, that sort of thing. You can also count ballots from previous screenings. We have ballot boxes in the lobby where people drop those seat voucher/ballots. And we ask volunteers when they have some free time to pull those out and tally them. Now, you will always have your theater manager or your assistant theater manager in the theater with you, and they can help guide you through tallying up ballots and things like that. As a volunteer, you don't have to count the money or do any of that kind of math stuff, as the theater manager will do that piece of it for you as well. When people come out of the theater, when the program is over, essentially what you're doing is encouraging them to vote, right? Here's the ballot box. Here we've got some pens and pencils. Make sure that they have every opportunity to vote if they want to. Then, when most of the people are out of the theater, we usually send a couple of people in to help clean up the theater. This is both the Durango Arts Center and the Gaslight have staff to do the cleaning, but they see a lot of volume during our film festival, and we feel like it's only polite for us to help clean up. And you don't have to do a deep clean. Go in, do a little sweeping, pick up the big chunks, throw away the stuff, the trash that the film goers don't throw away, which honestly, they tend to throw away most of it. But just straighten up a little bit. One thing you're not responsible for is the bathrooms. The staff at the theater, if they're out of toilet paper or somebody complains that there's, a toilet clogged up, which often happens at the Gaslight, you just get the staff of the theater to take care of that. So let me tell you a little bit about how the Gaslight works, because the basic motions are the same, but the Gaslight has 2 screens instead of 1. So we have 2 sets of lines and 2 different theaters that people are going into. And this can be a little bit confusing for our moviegoers. At the Gaslight Theater, we have, like I said, 2 sets of lines. Gaslight Theater 1, people line up going in the main entrance of the theater, which faces 5th, right there at that curve. And there are signs above the doors that say first tier, second tier ticket buyers. And that tells people which lines to get in. We also have signs inside the theater that say first tier, second tier ticket buyer, so that people know how to sort themselves once they get into the theater. The people going into theater number 2 line up outside on the west side of the theater, which is the side that faces the train. And there is a door about 2/3 of the way down that side of the theater that we use for our entrance door during the festival for people going into Gaslight 2. There are also signs along that walkway hanging from the overhang that tell them where to line up. Tier 1, Tier 2 line up facing north, right, towards the street, and ticket buyers line up going south towards the parking lot. The same rules apply for letting people in. Tier 1 folks have reserved seating until 20 till. Tier 2 folks get in after Tier 1 until quarter till, and ticket buyers we start letting in at 15 till. Now, one thing we do to make this a little less complicated is that we stagger the movies at the Gaslight. So there will never be 2 movies starting at the same time. We usually space them about half an hour apart. So when you're letting people into Gaslight 1, you're not also trying to let people into Gaslight 2, and you don't have 2 whole theaters full of people milling around in the lobby trying to figure out where to go. All right, so you've letting your Gaslight 1 people in, you get them all in. You let your Gaslight 2 people in, you get them all in. And you need essentially the same people that you need at the Durango Arts Center. You need a person to scan passes. You need a second person to hand out seat vouchers, because you can't really do both. And you'll have your theater manager standing there, and you generally also want to have someone standing between the 2 theaters near the projection booth for people who are confused about which theater they're supposed to go into. And that happens a lot. Nobody's fault. The other thing you need, especially at the Gaslight, especially when it starts getting busy, is you need someone standing outside, out front, because people will come to the Gaslight and they'll know what movie they're going to see, but they won't know which theater it's in. And so we often have to direct people as to which line to get in. So you see somebody walking up, they've got a pass, they look a little confused. You might say to them, "So which program are you here to see today?" And they'll tell you, they may know the title, but the odds are they'll say something like, I'm here for the turtle movie, or I'm here for the adventure program. And you as the volunteer will have a program in hand. We also have foam core, right? A big board with foam core schedules for you and the volunteer and you and the film goers to consult, and you can direct them into the appropriate line at that point. Find out what pass they have so you know whether they go into first tier, second tier, or ticket buyer, and find out what movie they're there to see so you can tell them which set of lines to get in. That is basically how all of that works. A couple of other things that will happen, just so you know, in addition to counting ballots, cleaning up a little bit, you also are going to have to answer some questions. Film goers will come in to the venue to ask about movies at other theaters, to ask about buying passes or tickets, or perhaps asking about parties and things like that. We will have a whole bunch of printed program guides for the film festival in the venue. You should study that while you're doing your shift, when you're not super busy. We will have them laid out. You can give them out. They're free. We give them out to the moviegoers. But you should also hang on to one of your own, partly so you can mark what movies you want to see, but also so that you've got the information at your fingertips so that you can answer people's questions. There will also be a notebook, a binder at each of the venues that will have a lot of extra information in it. It will include announcing scripts for the programs, which is not your concern, but they're there so you know in case an announcer comes running in late and needs their script. There will be the venue schedule for volunteers, so you'll know who you're expecting, what people's shifts are, things like that. And so there's lots of extra information about the festival in the notebooks as well, which you can consult and use. Keep in mind that you will have a theater manager or an assistant theater manager there with you at all times. If you have questions or you have problems, ask your theater manager or your assistant theater manager. They will be able to smooth over any issues that may arise, put out any fires, and answer any of your questions. That said, if something comes up that they can't answer or they can't handle, they'll call me. And you are always welcome. My phone number will be there with all the other materials, and you're always welcome to call me if you've got other questions or if there's a problem that people cannot solve. That is exactly what I am there for. So, you've got an idea of what it is that you're supposed to do. Keep in mind, too, that you'll be getting little passes based on how many shifts you work and how many hours you work. And you can use those to go to other movies when you're not working. But one of the fun things about working in the theaters, in the venues during the festival, is that if a program is not sold out and you have enough people to keep an eye on things in the lobby, then you as volunteers can go in and watch movies without having to have a pass for it, right? So if you've got 3 or 4 volunteers and everybody's in the movie and you've got free time, you've counted your ballots, whatever it happens to be, you can consult with your theater manager, and as long as one person stays in the lobby to guard the cash box and answer questions and give out information, then you're welcome to go in and watch movies as part of your volunteer experience. Again, that's something you'll do in consultation with your theater manager. I think that's just about everything that you need to know. You probably have questions. You are welcome to email our volunteer coordinator if you've got any questions. You're also welcome to ask at the box office when you come to sign your waiver and get started. If you've got questions during the festival, we'll definitely be there to answer them. We really appreciate you coming out and volunteering. We couldn't do this without venue volunteers because nobody would know what to do. So thanks again for volunteering, and I hope you have a great festival experience.